Good evening and welcome to the April 2nd, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting. Well, it's plus 18 outside, and I did see a few people walking around our fine town with shorts today. I won't mention one of the councillors that I seen, but maybe even a councillor was walking around town. But just remember, later this week, there's a call for up to 30 centimeters of snow. So don't quite get used to the shorts quite yet till the following week, which it will be much nicer. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Members of council, there is an agenda before you. Administration, any changes to the agenda?
Through to the Deputy Mayor, the RCMP are unfortunately unable to attend this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Myers with the motion, please.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. That the April 2nd, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be accepted as amended.
I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. This is the time we allow members of the public to speak to council about anything that is not on the current agenda. Administration, has anyone registered to speak?
Through to the Deputy Mayor, no one has registered.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the council chambers that would like to speak to council about anything that is not on the current agenda? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Presentations and delegations. This evening we have two presentations. First on the agenda is an update from NeighborLink Parkland. Welcome and please come forward for your presentation. I'll ask you to print your name on the sign-in sheet in front of you, push the button on the base of the microphone, and speak directly into the microphone. Welcome to council chambers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Alexandra Klaus. I am here tonight representing NeighborLink Parkland. And we have a PowerPoint presentation for you. NeighborLink Parkland has been operating in the tri-region of Spruce Grove, Stony Plain, and Parkland County for the last 24 years. We are a group of member churches, 20 member churches at this time, that gather volunteers and pool resources together to help those in our community who are falling through the cracks. Obviously, that is an enormous task, and we don't do it alone. We work with everyone. So you can see our collaboration chart. This is not an exhaustive list, by the way, but we work together with our community support programs, community outreach programs, church outreach programs, health services, government services, school counselors and teachers, as well as protective services in our region. Our office receives roughly 600 calls on average a month for assistance. We have 3 wonderful staff who field those calls and answer the calls for assistance. We assess those needs. Every single client is assessed, and we provide a meeting with them. We provide a strategy to move forward, how to navigate government services that they're trying to utilize. We come up with a plan, and we meet them right where they're at. So if, things get crazy, we meet with you, and then we assess your situation, and we sit down and we try to provide immediate support, as well as coming up with a plan on how to achieve long-term goals. So what are some of the ways that we help? Navigating service agencies is a huge way that NeighborLink helps. It's a really difficult thing when you're in crisis to try and understand the correct people that you want to reach out to and the order in which you have to do that. And so we sit down with clients and we help them navigate and field what resources and agencies are going to be most effective for them at that time. We have a program called the Help Closet, which is mostly basic needs, basic hygiene needs, so shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, toothbrushes, some clothing, backpacks, school supplies, those kinds of things. We also run a furniture donation program in our area. It is the only one of its kind. So individuals who are looking to start over again, typically it will be someone leaving domestic violence or an abusive situation that is looking to start over. We provide them with the furniture that they need to do that. We provide financial assistance. We have limited resources, and so the way that we do that is we pool resources from other agencies. Maybe we go 50-50, maybe we go 60-40, so we try to make that happen. The other program that we have is our Keep in Touch program. Initially, this was started during COVID, and it was an attempt to reach people who were in isolation, to contact them on a weekly basis, do check-ins, make sure they're okay. And actually that program was so well received that the province itself came to us and said, how did you do that? Because we want to start it. And so they copied our programming, and it's run throughout the province now. Even though COVID has ended, we still keep that program in operation because isolation didn't stop with the pandemic. Our volunteers make our work possible. We have 65 volunteers across the community, and they do a lot for us. So currently, the biggest way that you can volunteer with NeighborLink is by delivering food bank campers out into the Parkland County area for those who are unable to access the food bank resources within town. The other way that you can volunteer is through Keep in Touch. We help our community by delivering a lot of programs. One of the programs that I just spoke about was the Back to School program. We help parents get the tools that they need. So we run these programs usually through our churches. We get the churches to do back to school drives. They come up with backpacks and all the kit that you need. And together with what is no longer in operation, but the previous owners of CD computers, we find Chromebooks, refurbish them, and get them to the students so that they can actually start school on the right step. The other thing that we provide is running shoes, because if you're a parent, you know, you don't just need one pair of shoes. You need two. You need indoor and outdoor shoes. And so we provide both of those sets of shoes so that parents can focus on other areas that come with back to school. We have a fuel voucher program for individuals who are unable to access fuel for their vehicles to get to appointments or get their kids to school. We also have a food voucher program to help top up where food bank campers may be falling short, or individuals who are unable to meet the needs of their family at that time. Like I mentioned previously, we have our furniture program, which is the only one of its kind. We have our Keep in Touch program, and I think that's everything I've listed there. Even with a dramatic increase in need, NeighborLink Parkland continues to serve. So here are two snapshots. The one in purple for you, it's taken from our least busy month. I chose it specifically because it's the month when we received the least calls. So you can see in 2019, we received about 174 calls in the month of April. Judging up against 2023, you can see that we have received close to 600 calls in the month of April. The next graph is our yearly calls. In 2019, NeighborLink Parkland received 2,100 calls. Just under. And in 2023, we received 7,400 calls for assistance. We have served this community for the last 24 years, and we look forward to planting seeds of change and hope for many years to come. And I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to come and share with you the work that we've been doing in our community. If you have any questions, I may be able to answer them.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First, thank you for coming, and I'm very proud to be a member of a church that contributes to your organization, and it gives me a great sense of pride to know that my church does help contribute to the community through your wonderful organization. I'm also just noting on your presentation that you guys have been in operation for 24 years. I'm curious, how long have the town of Stony Plain been a contributor?
Wrong button. Deputy Mayor, fantastically, Stony Plain has always been a member of the NeighborLink branch. Yep.
And a follow-up, so that's good That's good to hear as well. I'm also curious, in those years, how long or how much has our contribution been? And has it stayed consistent, raised, dropped?
Deputy Mayor. I would say, I can't give you a total, I can certainly get you that information to the council. I know that in the last few years, Stony Plain has been one of the only communities in the tri-region that has been consistently generous with NeighborLink Parkland. I believe last year you donated close to 10,500 plus. There was the contributions from a golf tournament that you guys gave to NeighborLink Parkland, which was, I think, $17,000. So that's $27,000, which is far more than most communities.
Thank you.
Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Alexander, for the presentation. It's always great when we get the opportunity to see, the statistics and how it works. And your slide about collaboration is key, really stood out. I mean, you have 33 different organizations on there in collaboration, and we know a lot of that is done by volunteers, and so that's incredibly appreciative out to our entire community that participates in any way, shape, or form. And I don't have a question for you, but I did want to pump your guys' tires a little bit. You did mention a little bit about how the town of Stony Plain's involved. We do have our Mayor's Golf Tournament, the Mayor's Classic Golf Tournament, coming up this July 22nd, and NeighborLink Parkland is the beneficiary that's receiving the beneficiary from that this year. So I'm not sure if our administration could tell us how many spots are still open in that, but I don't believe it is sold out as of yet. So again, just a huge pump out to the community. The golf tournament is a great opportunity to get to network with various different individuals in our community, with the local government, with our business community, and then again, it goes to support a great cause. So really appreciate you coming in and presenting all this information to us this evening, because this now helps us as well as we go out and we speak with the community. So thank you for all your hard work.
Councilor Hansard.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Well, it's good to have you in council chambers and to be present so that we can tell you nice things about yourselves. We really appreciate the good report that was in our council package. As I read the report for tonight's meeting, several pages, I'm just going, oh my, just my heart sort of had a little bit of tightening as I read through. When I got to the page, I forget what page it is on now, 24 of 65 in our council package, and it said from January to December 2023, you handled 7,414 calls. These are calls that are coming to you and maybe not anyone else. And it's good to know that there's an agency like NeighborLink that can help people. If I'm not mistaken, I think NeighborLink for years came in September with a request, and I think the amount was typical of Pioneer Museum and some other organizations where you asked around $5,000. And because government is not in the business of handing out more money than people come to us asking for and present a need for and give a good support set of stats so that we know whether we're doing this or not. We weren't knocking on your door saying, well, did you want more money? But truthfully, when an organization comes and asks for an amount, I think what Councillor Meyer may come to realize is over all the years, it may not be an enormous amount, but they didn't ask for enormous amounts either. And when the need has been told to the town of Stony Plain, we do try to step up. I think things are being handled a little bit differently now, and I'm grateful that our municipality is here for you. We're very proud of you. We thank you for your service to all the people who have needs that are not being met elsewhere. And furniture is one of those that it's really hard for people to get their hands on. If someone is fleeing a dangerous situation, they're not taking their bed with them. They're not taking their kids' beds with them. So it's really good that you guys help in such tangible ways, and I I think, dishes and other things. And we have other societies that step up as well, but it's really wonderful that you're here. And this counselor is a fan.
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you for being here this evening to share what you do. I think one of the most thankless jobs that one can have is working with a volunteer organization, and often it's behind the scenes, and you're there and see people at their worst, and I don't believe necessarily get the recognition you deserve or look for. I know that's not something that is often sought out, but I think hearing you this evening and sharing the capacity that you support the residents of the Tri-Region is phenomenal. I can think back, similar to Councillor Meyer, faith communities that I've been a part of, and certainly wanting to contribute to the work that NeighborLink Parkland does, and to see how you've grown over the years. I truly believe we're stronger together, and we have so many service agencies in our community that do such good work, but sometimes it's finding an intermediary to be able to point in the right direction, or bridge services, or whatever that might be, and certainly a role that your organization helps us fill, and we're tremendously appreciative of that. I do have a couple of questions for you, and more on how others can get involved. And so you had mentioned a couple of programs, volunteer opportunities. I think you had said food bank delivery, keep in touch. Just wondering sort of what process maybe volunteers would need to go through to be able to connect with you and potentially volunteer some of their time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think it's a really good question. Probably the fastest way to do that is to go to our website and click, yes, I would like to volunteer, and then we can get that process started with you right away and find out what is it that you're interested in volunteering for, what kind of skills do you have, and what can you bring to the table. Obviously, like I said, we drive food bank campers, so if you have a vehicle and you want to drive, that's a great way to volunteer. Or maybe you don't have a vehicle and you want to chat with somebody every week and kind of connect with them and keep them from being super isolated. We would love to help train you with our Keep in Touch program. Those are the two main ways that I can think of. Throughout the year, we have a few different campaigns that we run. Like I said, the back to school. Maybe you want to get together with some friends and you want to get together with a few groups of people and you want to pack some backpacks, or maybe we also run a Christmas program. That's the one I forgot. The Stockings of Care program, which is where a few years ago I accidentally found in the back of our office 120 stockings. What am I going to do with those? So we decided to run a campaign where we send it off to our volunteers, and they got together with some family and friends and they filled those stockings, and we gave them out to seniors and people who struggle with isolation in our community, so they weren't alone. So those are a few different ways that you can volunteer, and probably, like I said, the best way to contact us is via our website. If that's not something you're interested in, you can also phone us. And the town has that information.
Perfect. No, I certainly appreciate that. One maybe connection, and maybe you've spoken with them already, I'm not sure, but the Stony Plain Volunteer Center works actively to recruit and connect volunteers within the community with organizations that sort of meet their skill sets and that sort of thing. Not that we want to take that process that you have in place, but it might be a good referral when people are looking for volunteer opportunities. I did look quite quickly here this evening. I didn't see you listed there, but might be a good connecting point. And I know our staff would be able to connect you there if that's something that interests you. If I may continue, Deputy Mayor, thank you. In the slideshow, you had shown numbers over 4 or 5 years increasing 300% to 400% in terms of calls that your office is receiving. And just wondering if you could share with us your capacity as an organization to meet the need that you're seeing, or are you now seeing that the call volume is exceeding your capacity, and just looking for an understanding as to where you're at with that one?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yep, that's a really good question. So, yes, call volumes have tripled. Initially, when NeighborLink Parkland was started 24 years ago, it was one volunteer individual who worked part-time. Over the years, that has changed. I want to say in 2020, we hired 2 staff members. That quickly grew to 3 staff members. We're now operating with 3 staff members, a volunteer board who help. It's a working board, and like I said, 65 volunteers. How we are navigating the change in capacity. Due to the fact that NeighborLink Parkland, our mandate is a little different. You know, if you're a shoe salesman, your mandate is to sell shoes. NeighborLink Parkland's mandate is to help people who fall through the gaps. As those gaps widen, our mandate remains the same. And so what that has meant is not less capacity on our end. I don't know how you turn people away who are hurting. It's just not, NeighborLink can't do that. We're not made of that. So the way that we have managed to work within that system is to broaden our capacity for collaboration. And so, like I said, you know, maybe you call us and you need $700 for rent. Maybe I can't pay $700, but maybe I can get together with 6 other organizations, and together we can each come up with, you know, $110 or something, okay? It's not a hard no. It's never a hard no. We try very hard to meet every single need that is there that we can possibly meet. And some needs we can't meet, so we reach out to outside resources. But our collaboration is what makes us able to meet the needs of these communities. Yes, it's 7,400 calls. It's 7,400 times that someone has been at the end of their rope. And so I get that it's a huge number, but there are also people on the other side of that. And so I just don't know how else you could handle that without addressing the human aspect of it. So we just broaden our collaboration. We beg and borrow. We don't steal, but we beg and borrow, and we put on silly games at golf tournaments where you have to, I don't know what we did, shoot a marshmallow last year, I think is what it was. So yeah, we work really hard to meet the needs of this community and to love them very, very well. And if that means that, I mean, I know it's not the coolest thing when it's your name on a list of paper with 35 other names, but if it gets the job done, I don't really care if I'm famous for it or not. I just want the work to get done.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm not sure what's going on with my mic. It keeps cutting out and back in and that sort of thing, but hopefully we can get that looked at. Stronger together, and you know, you spoke to collaboration and being able to reach out and having a network, and I think the fact that you have a network that's willing to connect and work and support what you're doing speaks volumes about your organization. If I may, one more question, Deputy Mayor. You know, one of the things that you know, we sometimes see, whether it's through any of our, you know, social support agencies, but is the opportunity for clients or callers to circle back and be a contributor. And just wondering if maybe you could share a story of somebody who you've been able to support and how they've been able to circle back to be a support for someone else within the community.
I love that question. It's a great question. I would say 98% of the people that we assist come back and want to assist the next person. One of my favorite stories was a young mom who had fled domestic violence. She'd been sleeping on the floor for like 6 weeks with her kids. And so she said, I just need one bed, just one. And we got them 2. And the next year, she had gotten it together. You know, she had a job, she had a ride to work, her kids were nailing it in school. And she came back with a $27 check and was like, give it to the next person. And that happens all the time. There is so much good in this community. We are capable of so much, but we have to work together. We have to trust each other. We have to be good to each other. I could tell you hundreds of those stories. One guy, he had left a difficult situation. He was living in an apartment and he didn't have any electricity, and so he started growing tomatoes on his balcony. And he started coming to one of our meetup places where we give out food, and he was giving away his tomato plants because he'd gotten some seedlings from them, and he wanted to show other people that what he was able to do. You know, we were able to help him, and so now he wanted to help others. And I just think I could tell you hundreds of these stories, but yeah, thank you.
I love that, and I apologize for putting you on the spot that way. I think there's an unfair story that sometimes gets told that, you know, people would like to reach out and aren't always willing to give back. And I think the stories that you share this evening and the rawness that you bring, you know, to our council meeting speaks volumes about the power of community. You know, we often get together before our council meetings and sit in the back and talk about some of the issues that are going on and get updates and whatever. And our CAO today spoke about something that I think lends really well to our conversation, and that is when you ask people in this region what makes us special, the answer is community. And what you're doing, the work that your volunteers do. I see you have some guests with you. I'm going to guess maybe some volunteers or other staff here with you, but thank you for all you do because it makes a difference, and we truly are a better community because of the impact that you have here. So thank you so much.
Councillor Loynes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just really quick, you said you receive 600 calls a month averagely. Do we know roughly where these calls are coming from? Stoney, Spruce, Parkland?
I can get you our actual report that physically breaks that down for you. I would say about 25% comes from the town of Stony Plain, probably 60%, 65% from the town of Spruce Grove, and the rest are from the county.
And then how many of those calls, again, in your report most likely, would be, I don't want to say like repeat?
Yes, so I want to say we helped almost 300 individuals. I can get that number for you as well. I think it was roughly 300 individuals last year. So yeah, you're talking about repeat. Mm-hmm. When we talk about things like leaving domestic violence, it takes a long, long time. It's a long stretch. When we talk about poverty, it's a long, long stretch. And, you know, there are circumstantial things that are going on in the world around us that we just can't control. And so there is a lot of repeat, and there's a lot of meeting with someone who is just afraid. There's a lot of fear. And so what are the next steps that we can take, and how can we be brave? Like, how can we do that and do it well? Those are things that we take a lot of pride in. So 300 unique individuals, that may include family pockets as well, so 300 family units. So yeah, I mean, I'll get you a better number, a number that's actually tangible for you, yeah.
No, and I appreciate that, and I know it's not a one and done type of phone call ever, so I just appreciate that. And then one more, Deputy Mayor, if you don't mind. I noticed on your volunteer application form, understanding you guys are a Christian group,
Yep.
right? And that's perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But if it asks for the personal reference, and it says church staff, board or elder member, if somebody were to want to volunteer that isn't from our church communities, is that something that they can still do?
Yes.
Knowing that you
It
guys
is-
are Christian-based?
It is absolutely something that you can do. We do it on a case-by-case basis. Due to the fact that we are a Christian organization, we have certain faith values, you know, how we treat people, how we interact with people. Not that other people don't have those values. But we just want to make sure that we're on the same page about how we do those things. Obviously, the majority of our volunteers do come from our member churches. It is open to anyone in our communities who wants to volunteer. But we just get together and have a conversation about what our organization's beliefs are and how that might work with you.
No, that's perfect, I appreciate that. I can think of some people, but they don't attend a church regularly or wouldn't consider themselves a member, and that's why I was just curious. So, no, that's everything, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Well, I don't know where to start because when I read the report, I was more than humbled by what was in the report. As you spoke tonight, there was a few things that kind of stood out for me. 24 years, 600 calls, furniture, 65 volunteers. That speaks volumes for a community. To have 65 volunteers in itself says a lot for your organization. I don't know many other organizations that would have that many people. A couple of things that did come to mind as I read through the report was, I wondered, how do you prevent duplication?
That's an excellent conversation that we have constantly. When you access NeighborLink Parkland for services, we have a very open arrangement with the many collaboration groups that you saw on that key slide. We will ask you if you have accessed those resources, and it will become very apparent very quickly if you have. So yeah, I mean, initially we will ask somebody and then we'll tell them, right? Because we're a last resource, these are the first steps that you have to take. We can help you in the interim with a few things here, but these are the first steps that we need to see you take. If those individuals have taken those steps and those doors have closed, we'll want to know why, what happened, because we cannot do everything all the time. It's not possible. And because of our collaboration with these organizations, it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly if someone has decided that they're not willing to follow the structures that are in place to move forward. And so one of the ways that we deal with duplication is we don't do it from our end if it's already being done. So if somebody, like the Parkland Food Bank is a great example. If somebody is receiving help from the food bank and they're not accessing their top-up hamper, which is available to them, the food bank, because we work with them, will say, well, they haven't come in for their top-up hamper. And we will then call that individual back and say, first, we need to access the resources that are in place, and then we can access emergent resources, which come through NeighborLink Parkland. And then we'll have that conversation. But yeah, so it doesn't come through us initially. So it will probably be, if they're trying to access resources and somebody else does it, if they've gone through that other resource, then we can help them. But if they haven't first exhausted all those other ones, we start there first.
Nice, I appreciate that because I get asked that question quite a bit. How do our organizations within our community not duplicate services? And I get that there will be a bit of duplication. That's just the way life is sometimes, but it's more about helping people as we go through. The other thing, there's a couple of more things that kind of stood out for me. Your help closet needs. Can you just touch on that just a tiny little bit more? Because it's something I think that's really important for people that are in a crisis situation.
Our help closet exists to help in a specific situation. Usually you are out of basic hygiene items. We present to our member churches as well to the public via Facebook, I believe, the needs that we have for our help closet, the things that are available. And so, like I had said before, you're talking shampoo, conditioner, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, undergarments, socks, t-shirts, some, like if we have it available, some clothing, if that's something that you need, we have clothing vouchers through the thrift store in Spruce Grove. There's a lot that's available to people if they're in distress and they need those items. Those are almost always readily available. And the way that they come to us is through our volunteers, getting those through, like I said, the member churches and groups that get together and they want to volunteer. So I'm not sure what you're asking about it, but if you could tell me more.
No, you answered kind
Okay.
of what I was looking for. Yeah, you bet. And one of the other things that really stands out that I think is probably most key to a lot of what you do is your Keep in Touch program. Mm-hmm. Do you want to elaborate just a tiny bit more on how do you keep in touch with people and follow up so that you know that there's the need is getting less or the need is getting more?
That's a really good question. So that is open to the public. So if we get, we sometimes have had referrals from Westview Health Center for seniors that are there that they are finding are dealing with isolation, or most commonly are from family members that live further away and they realize that their parents or their grandparents are struggling with isolation. They'll call NeighborLink. And so anyone can refer anyone. I mean, the participant has to be willing. But outside of that, it's open to anyone. How do I know that it's working? Well, we have more Keep in Touch volunteers right now than we have people who are looking to be called. So that to me is a win. I know it doesn't sound like a win, but if the need is becoming less, that's an excellent thing. As the winter months come back to us, not that they'll be here that soon, but we find that isolation starts to take over a little bit more. And so, again, we get phone calls from everybody, parents, siblings, relatives, social workers, doctors are another key ingredient in that mix. They'll give their patients the number to call. I think this would be a good thing for you to keep in touch with somebody. We then train our volunteers. Some programs are just about, you know, a phone call connecting, and those things are important, but the Keep in Touch program is actually designed to help us take care of people from a distance. So we check on, how are your meds going? Are you taking your medication? How are you feeling these days? Have you gone outside? Have you talked to anybody? We talk to them and we train our volunteers to get details of information that we can relay back to the person that we're talking to and say, hey, it looks like things have changed a little bit since the last time we talked. I wonder if maybe you need to go talk to your doctor. Maybe you need to reach out to your daughter. Maybe you need to connect with somebody on the outside. And so we kind of just help them navigate isolation and help them feel a little less lonely. Most of our Keep in Touch volunteers absolutely love that position. They love talking on the phone. I mean, we recommend 25 to 30 minutes, and some of those ladies, they are on there for an hour, hour and a half. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think what's really important is what NeighborLink does for the community. And obviously, we at council see the same thing. As you can see by the interest, by the questions that you had tonight, that it's quite an important. And as the golf tournament comes closer this summer to, we look forward to seeing you guys there. I also know that when you come to make presentations to council, it's very nice to see support behind you. That support is always very helpful as well. And we at council appreciate seeing support for the individual that is taking time out of their evening. So again, we like to thank you very much for coming this evening, and we really appreciate the report, and we look forward to seeing you at the golf tournament this summer.
Thank you.
The final presentation this evening is from Red Brick Common. Welcome, and please come forward with your presentation. If I could get you to print your name on the sign-in sheet in front of you, push the button on the base of the microphone and speak directly into the microphone. Welcome to council.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Used to be, we were funded annually, and we presented every year to council as part of that, the change in how things are going in terms of the system. We only see you every 3 years now or so, and Councillor Laurie serves on our board, and he was suggesting that we just give you a quick update on what we're doing. And so this is much lighter than, it's hard to follow, that's a hard act to follow in terms of, you know, the people who are in the first line of service, in terms of people in need, but hopefully this is a little more upbeat, and they are a hard act to follow. So I'll just start to talk about, most of you are aware, but just in case, I have a list in front of you, which I'm not going to read through, but it's about our programs and services. The two that I'll highlight are the two most recent additions near the bottom, our Vintage Store and our Toy Library. The Vintage Store is a commercial enterprise, but it also does lots of things in terms of giving, recycling, all those things that we do for the community. We give away a prom outfit, all those things. So there is a giving aspect to that as well. And the Toy Library operates like a book library. You become a member and you take out toys, and it's just a way of keeping things out of the landfill, of sharing with the community, and it's an inexpensive way for parents to do things with their children. There's play groups that go on there in addition to just the regular borrowing of toys that goes on. Also, after COVID, when weddings were suspended for so long, we have been having a lot of weddings happening on site, and everything that goes on outside in terms of photos, there's lots of those throughout the whole summer, but the people who need more services than that, and those are free, but the people who need more services than that in terms of providing some kind of wedding planning, chairs, all those things. We do have a very small fee for use compared to what other wedding venues are charging, but I guess because a lot of people were unable to get married during COVID, there's a big surge in it now. At our heart, we are an agricultural society, and in Alberta, there's so many agricultural societies, and some of them, their only mandate, their only action is to, run a hockey arena. It doesn't actually have to do with agriculture. It has to do with providing a service that the community needs. And so that's how we've tried to structure almost all the things we do in terms of developing educational programs, events, and services that provide a service to the community. Community events are the heart of what we do. Some of these photos are the ladies on the Red Hat Brigade. The bottom right is our 50th anniversary party. And the bottom left is a fashion show that we put on as part of the gala, celebrating our 50th anniversary last year. Children's art and culture are a large part of what we do in terms of children's classes. We do lots of things for free associated with events, but we also have lots of art classes that are pay per use. And adding the user fee, at least with a cost recovery level, allows us to put more of those things on. We teach adults, children, and teens in terms of various art disciplines. We're not here to ask for money today, but I did include this because the funds that we receive from the town are very important to us in the sense that they are undesignated. Most of the other monies we receive are from things we provide or through grants, which have very specific deliverables. And so having these funds that are undesignated are critically important to us. 2 years ago, we came in $100,000 underspent, but that was because I had sort of let everyone go during COVID and ran it all on a very small staffing. And as we've tried to ramp back up, and there were lots of monies available, because we are a museum, we could get things through the Museum Association, we get money from the Agricultural Society. A lot of the funds related to getting people back on their feet after COVID have dried up. So last year we came in $100,000 overspent. So we were underspent 100,000. The next year, we were basically even, so we spent what we left over. And last year, we came in $100,000 underspent. We are at very critical mass in terms of staffing. So we have been working with our volunteer board and myself to try and access more grants, because we are at the point now. I mean, they've been broke for 50 years as an organization, but this year we are more broke than usual, and we are trying to have cost-saving measures also in terms of thinking of new ways of doing revenue generation. Some of the things we've thought about in terms of funding diversification involve facility rentals, user fees, and the things that are on the list here in front of you, sponsorships, and the sale of part of our lands to explore a partnership with the town, which was about 3 years ago now, have all been instrumental in trying to keep us solvent. Part of when you're in a cost crunch a lot of the time is looking at refining programming to focus on things that are develop the community, but also or at least bring you in at a cost neutral, so that we're not putting on so many things for free. We're trying to do things that improve the community, but also that we might be able to charge a user fee for, so that things are developed, things are given at a much subsidized rate. And the last thing I wanted to talk about specifically are the 3 or 4 things that we do with the town, specifically in terms of the partnership. So last year we did the mural book. When Greg got sick, he was our long-term interpreter for the tour. I got a grant to have a book made, and we paid our curator to write, she's written several books, to do the research and write the book. And so that's one partnership that we continue to work through. Also, there's the heritage property designation policy that Chantel is working with our archives. We are also working with Chantel on having art in the lobby. That initiative is important to us to provide that for free to you, to have art that has been displayed in your lobby. We've only done it once so far, but it's going to be an ongoing program. And the horse and wagon tours, of course, are very successful and always sold out every summer. And that's another program working with the Culture and Tourism Officer. I did want to talk a little bit about statistics. I haven't included many in there, but last year the PERC users were 49,820. So the PERC, if any of you don't know, has a school-sized gym in it that operates sort of as a community center that has various athletic, recreational things that go on for, about a third of what all other renters are charging in the area. And many, many people in the community are accessing that. I would say 65% of the people that access it are from the town of Stony Plain. And it's everything from birthday parties to weddings to karate to Zumba to all those things that go on in the space. So just some proof that the community is still very interested in accessing services and that there is a real need for that within the community. And that's a very short presentation. Let people ask questions if they have.
Thank you for the presentation. If you just want to introduce yourself a little bit so that council knows who you are.
Pardon me, Melissa Hartley. I'm the managing director of the former Multicultural Heritage Center, which is now the Redbird Common.
Thanks, Melissa. Does council have any questions for the presentation? Councillor Hansard.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's great to have you in council chambers, Melissa. Welcome. Over the years ago, let's say this, I know that the Multicultural Heritage Center depended a great deal on government grants to pay for the cost of running the building. There was the restaurant revenue, the mural tour revenue, and so forth. Is it true that almost all of the government grants that you used to get from higher levels of government are not available to you anymore?
No, still about 65% of our budget is from grants. The problem is, if you get one year, you're not eligible for it for the next year, or probably the next 3 years. So those are the struggles with having solid foundation in terms of funding. Like, we can say, okay, we can dip back into this well because we haven't asked in a while, but some of them, like last year, for the first time in 4 years, we didn't get money for summer students from Canada Summer Jobs. But the 4 years before we had, when we sort of asked questions, because we'd come to rely on it, they said, well, everybody has to take a turn of stepping away and having other people step forward. And we'll probably get it back this year. But those are the challenges when preparing a budget in terms of, we're going to ask a certain number of grants that we know, and there's a certain number of places you can keep going back to the well a few times, but it is still a very large part of running our operation.
Okay, further to that, Mr. Deputy Mayor, through you to our presenter. Melissa, would you tell me if, is the restaurant in operation, and does it bring a profit back to the Red Brick Common?
So when I started, the restaurant was very busy, but they had been losing a significant amount of money for a significant number of years. The year I started, they lost $45,000 on the restaurant. And so one of the things that I brought to the board when I started was, I've worked lots in restaurants as I was going through university, but I'm not really a restaurant manager. And none of the people we sort of had in that position were restaurant managers either. So why don't we give away the whole space to someone who that's what they do and they're good at? And the very first person we had was a community person from Stony Plain, and she did a great job, but she caught up in the COVID problem of everything closing, and they couldn't last, so they closed. We then rented to the people who were doing a gluten-free restaurant. It's called Wheat Nothings. And they had this amazing success in the beginning. They were making gluten-free donair meat. But either it was a niche market that, people go once because it's new and exciting and don't keep going. And the couple had marital problems and other things that happened, and they gave up the restaurant. And so the last iteration was someone who was on staff, and she was running a charcuterie business, and she said, oh, please let me take it over. And one of the things, and they didn't make it either. So there were some family issues in theirs too, because it's never just a straight, they weren't that busy. We had lots of customers for years and lots of goodwill. And some of that, I think, because we've had 3 people who haven't done that well. Like, we have just taken their rent and let them do whatever they want, but we've also behind the scenes talked about how challenging that is to give them, restrictive covenants about what they could do or sell, but also maybe we're going to be a little bit stricter this time. Mm-hmm. At this time, we are examining a partnership with Fife and Deckel Pies, and maybe some pop-ups to see how that could work, and then maybe them opening sort of a satellite area. She loved the space, she loves the idea, she loves the grounds, but they needed 80,000 of the population in order to open a new franchise. But that's what we're exploring right now. So right now it's closed, and we've been charging a minimal rent to try and give people opportunities to get it going again. So we have recently been talking to someone, and hopefully we'll have someone in the space within a reasonable amount of time. It doesn't do much for the bottom line, but it sort of pays the bills while they're in there. And it makes a huge difference to have the restaurant open and the place be more bustling and people to be around and stuff.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I know that the Multicultural Center, under the old name, the restaurant was a go-to place. Anybody that came to visit in Stony Plain got taken there by the people they were visiting here. And I know it's been an important part of revenue generation. I did not know that there was, in the past, difficulty making a profit out of it. But I'm glad that you guys are working on that. Our hope is for there to be success at the Multicultural Center, Red Brick Common. I think it's important, has been a very important part of our community. And certainly there is a concern about the financial status. And just know that I know it's a big burden to you as the managing director, but council also feels that sense of concern about your situation. However, you do report many wonderful things. The presentation in our council package was beautiful to read. We appreciate that very much. So thank you for being here.
Councilor Myers.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Mrs. Hartley, for showing up. Sorry, and thank you, Mrs. Hartley, for coming and presenting. The Red Brick Common, you know, it's a great asset to this community. I think just about anybody who's grown up here has taken a field trip to it, and so it's a common experience for so many. But I do share Councillor Hansard's concerns in regard to finances. I'm curious, just my experience in the busing world with weddings. I can appreciate you can spend a lot of time with these individuals and then plan their day and make all the arrangements for them, and then they pull out. I'm curious, do you collect a deposit, and how much does it cost to rent the grounds?
It's $400 for the whole day, and really that's just for me to pay a staff member to help them because we probably put in way more than that. We have thought about going higher because we have seen that a lot of other places are significantly more than that, but we had someone who used to work for the town, or maybe still does, that got married there last year, and she had such a great experience that she got her daughter to come and volunteer in the vintage store as part of her school work from home school or homeschool program she had. So they really do become friends of ours in terms of the space, because everyone really loves the space. We open up the Oppertshauser house and they use it as a changing room, preparation area, and they sort of walk down the stone path to the bottom of the amphitheater where we set up the bottom for them, so that's where the ceremony is held and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a beautiful place for weddings, and there's lots of them right now.
I fully agree. It's a great asset, and for $400, that's a steal of a deal for such a big day and such a important event, I'm sure. But if I could offer a suggestion, I would say non-refundable deposits. I find, anyhow, I'll just stop there. I do have another question, though, just in regards to the garden plots. How much does it cost to rent a garden plot? And I'm curious, do I need to be a member to rent a plot?
So the community garden area, it's $35 for the whole year, and there's lots of tools included in that, and soil, and it's just one shot. You don't, at this point, you don't have to be a member. we've been exploring the idea of expanding our membership and making it contingent upon you can rent a space if you're a member, or you can have a garden plot if you're a member, or whether that would be something where we have a very inexpensive membership, say $10. And in conjunction with my board, they've decided to go in that direction in terms of a $10 fee to be a member, and you get certain discounts on things. So the $35 is sort of the break-even amount. It's about 50% of what some places are charging. So we're always doing the dance between making it accessible to people and having as many people as we can participate, and also so that we're at least breaking even in terms of revenue generation for it. But I think there is a way that we could tie it to membership and make the revenue piece go up a little bit. Right now we have 70 plots. We built 8 new ones last year.
But it's nice to hear you're, sorry. It's nice to hear you're exploring options there. I think that's another great asset that you guys have. I'm curious, because I believe I rented a plot, going back a half dozen years, and I think I paid $50 at the time. So it's interesting to hear that the number's a bit lower. I might also just be wrong and remembering wrong.
Yeah, it was 30 for years and years, and we just put it up to 35 like 2 years ago, so.
Well, I'd be willing to pay $50.
Any further questions from council? Councillor Lloyd.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look at the slide page that's up right now. It says decrease operational costs through review and ongoing spending analysis. Just curious whereabouts you are in that, seeing as that last year you said you had overspent by $100,000.
So what happens is we had several things that had large sentimental value to lots of people to be putting on, like the Easter egg hunt, which we have since given to the town, because you guys do that now. Not exactly what we do, but a version of that. We used to do the Valentine's Day tea for the people who had been married for years and years, which was, would cost us $5,000 or $6,000 a year to put on. We stopped doing that for COVID, and we haven't taken that back up, not finding a sponsor yet. So we keep doing if we could find a sponsor, and dropping the things that they may have sentimental value, but we know we don't have the capacity to put that on in terms of money and staff. And the same is true with almost every program we have. We have to be sort of judicious, looking at them all the time and saying, do we have a sponsor? Do we have a grant? Do we have staff? Do we have funding to be able to put this on? Is there any possibility of revenue generation associated with it? Can you do a pay per use with it so that it allows you to put it on? And so those are the sort of ongoing analysis you have to do with almost everything you put on to make sure that you're not keeping on doing things that are going to put you in the hole. We had a grant that was a late report, and the money came in before year end, but it doesn't get acknowledged because all of the operations for it are into the next fiscal, which was 87,000 of the 102 we were over. So we're not that bad in that sense. It's not a pure thing, but the work that has to be done to pay the people that have to do it is all happening in the next fiscal. So you are sort of carrying that debt on your back and into your new fiscal for sure.
And if I can, how many staff members, you said there were staff cuts, so how many staff members actually work for Red Brick Common?
Right now, I am the only full-time member.
Okay.
So I have someone who curates the art gallery. She gets paid a small stipend per month. Someone who sits at the front desk who does an abbreviated day. And then I have a bookkeeper who also does an abbreviated day and abbreviated week. And we also have people who come and teach the school programs when we have a booking. And we have people that we bring in when we like CD Saturday. We just had 125 people come out for a seed exchange on the weekend. And we brought in the girl that teaches school programs to come and help us do that. So there are more staff that you can call in when you have an event or a special occasion. But when I started, there were 33 people on an org chart. And that included, all the people in the restaurant that we don't run anymore or anything. But the salary piece of it is, when, like any other business, 85% of your costs are related to paying people to do things. Right. So we are at a very still skeletal staff.
Okay. And then one more. Roughly, my numbers might not be 100% correct. The town gives you about $98,000 a year. Are we one of your only contributing partners, or is there another contributing partner?
The Parkland County is also a contributing partner, and the Agricultural Society has, it's not really a partnership, but we apply every year, and as long as we are reporting on what we're doing, they decide after the fact which piece of that they could decide that is enough related to agriculture that isn't funded by anyone else and all these other criteria. But we get slightly less from the county and about the same from the county and the Ag Society.
Okay. I'm good for right now.
Councillor Laurie.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Melissa, for coming and presenting to council tonight. Just following on the lines of some of the questioning and highlighting some of what you had here. So you mentioned, Councillor Loynes mentioned about $98,000-ish contribution from the town to the operations. And then you mentioned in your presentation about the community events and the heart of what we do, understanding that, there's some changes and things going on. I was just wondering if you could kind of highlight to council what's upcoming this calendar year. What can we expect from Red Brick Common in regards to events and focusing on the community needs, the community events? What's on the schedule for 2024 that we can help promote out to the community?
Certainly, yeah. If anyone wants to share any of the stuff we do on any of our Facebook and Instagram, that's always helpful when people personally do that have a following. We had an MLA come out, and Cyril Turton, and he always puts it on his personal, I guess probably run by someone else, but he puts it on his personal Instagram and stuff, and people will come out from the city saying, oh, we heard about this place because he was in the Pioneer cabin in a hat or something, looking and laughing and having fun, and that's very helpful to us. We have our, right now currently, our Organic Master Gardener certification program that goes on year-round. That started in February, the latest class. This past weekend that just happened, we had CD Saturday. We also have, of course, all of the things that happen in terms of opening up the grounds for the summer. And we start to have the horse and wagon tours as part of the mural tours that originate from our place. We participate in Farm Days, which is happening in June. We also participate in Culture Days in conjunction with the town, the library. We do a partnership with the Potters Guild. I wrote the grant this year, but we take turns writing grants and sharing costs for that day. That happens in August. We have school programs throughout the year. They're very popular in the months when the teachers are sort of fed up and ready to have somebody else do something fun for the day. So in May and June, those are really busy for us. We're trying to do things related to our spaces. One of the big things we do in the fall, we started doing these ghost tours related to some of the lore around a couple of our buildings. Those happen in the fall. We also do usually some sort of a fundraiser with the board in the fall in terms of maybe a farm-to-table dinner or something like that. Also, in that time period, we start to do the Christmas programming for schools. We have how people celebrate Christmas around the world, sort of a cultural look at that. And every 3 months, we have a new art exhibit that has an associated opening with it. And finally, in December, we have something we call Old Fashioned Christmas. It's open to the public, and Santa comes, and we bake cookies and do all that. For the school programs, the same thing. They bake cookies, the ladies in costume. And we go to all of the, when you do the Midsummer Thursdays, go to all those kind of things that happen at the Tri-Leisure in terms of getting our brand out. We send someone in costume who's giving out brochures, talking about the wedding possibilities, talking about school programs, just trying to hawk everything we do and kind of celebrate us. We had a wedding book made that's also been digitized, that's on our website for people, if you want to refer anyone who's interested in weddings. So year-round, we have things happening.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And obviously, we think it's a great facility, and we're honored to have it in our community and want to make sure that it's as viable as possible, and we're doing everything to help. And I know for Farmers Days, for example, that there's a park and ride location used there, and so the opportunity to draw people to the facility as they're kind of waiting or anything like that, I think is a great opportunity. Definitely heard a lot of the registered and paid programs that the Red Brick Common is putting on, and I think there's a lot of value. I know you did mention a little bit earlier in your presentation about kind of the attrition of some of the community programs like the Easter egg hunt and those kind of things, and I just urge you to reconsider on some of that stuff. I know it doesn't necessarily make money, and sometimes it costs a little bit of money, but I think the exposure that it brings to the facility is incredibly important. I'm sure this weekend we probably all saw a lot of the buzz on social media about the Easter egg hunt program and how many people were out exploring the community looking for those. And so being able to draw those people to the facility, it might not make you money on that day, but I think it provides a significant amount of exposure for some of the other opportunities that are available at the facility. So I do have a little bit of a concern and worry that not putting those events on because they have a specific cost to them may actually hurt future revenues going forward by limiting the exposure. So I know we've talked about it a bit at the board. I know the conversation will continue there, but that's something I'd urge that partnership with the town to really continue to recognize the contribution the town makes, the opportunity that the town provides for that exposure through some of these events, and making sure that the Red Brick Common is a key part of our community. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Council. Thank you for coming tonight, Melissa. One of the things that I always appreciate from our community partners is the opportunity for you to make presentations to us so that we have a better understanding of what's going on. Having sat on that board for a number of years, I appreciate you coming here and being able to talk about the trials and tribulations of what goes on there, because having sat there, I know there is a lot of it that comes to your heart, and you do the best job that you can moving it forward. I did hear a couple of things from council today, as well as while you were speaking on a few opportunities, I think, that you're probably able to take back to for some consideration. If you're 1/3 less than everybody else, there's probably some opportunity there. I know the one thing that's really good with it, our community partners do, is they try to put on functions for our people within our community that are very cost effective to them. And I think I appreciate that, and so do the people that come to the events. But sometimes we know that since COVID, most things have gone up a little bit, and there might be a little bit of an opportunity to get to the break-even line. I worry about organizations as they sit in front of us talking about being in financial crisis at times, and that takes a lot too. I think that's very good that you're able to have that conversation. So I look forward to the next time that you come, and the presentation that will come with it. I'm sure we'll hear much better things, and I know the support that you get from us at council is going to be an ongoing support. So thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you so much for having me. We, I always say we're one grant away from being solvent, so who knows what could happen. But it's not as precarious as it sounds. We've sort of operated at that for many, many years, but all those things are very helpful. So thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. We'll take a short recess now for 10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the last Governance and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. Councilor Laurie with the motion, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'll move that the March 4th, 2024 Governance and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be approved as presented.
Members of council, you've had the opportunity to read and review the committee meeting minutes from March 4th, 2024. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections? I didn't see any as well. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have two business items this evening. First is the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting. Administration, please proceed.
Thank you and good evening, Deputy Mayor and all of Council. The town has received notice of successful achievement of the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting for the submitted 2022 annual report. This marks the 12th subsequent year the town's annual report has qualified for this award. The Government Finance Officers Association presents awards to qualified applicants who publish an easily readable and efficiently organized annual financial report, demonstrating transparency to the residents. We want to take this time to thank all of communications and finance staff that have had a part in another successful application.
Council, the floor is open for questions of clarity and understanding on the presentation. Any questions? Wow. Seeing no more questions. Oh, hang on here. Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, sir. You paused. You gave me a second to jump in there. Thank you for sharing this with us this evening. It's always great to hear and see the town and town staff acknowledge for the work they do specific to the financial side of things. In our agenda package here, it mentions that we have submitted 12 times to the awards program. Just curious, have we been awarded the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting 12 times? Or maybe just a brief understanding of how many times we've been awarded this award. I don't know how that works. But I know it's not the first time, so maybe just a little bit of history here on our applications.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Anderson and all of Council. So this is the 12th successful application that we have achieved this award. Each year when we receive our award, we are also provided with feedback in which we have to respond back in the subsequent year when we provide our application. So we reply to the feedback or make adjustments in our report. And so that is taken into consideration as to whether we receive the award for the next year.
Awesome, and thank you for that clarification. I had read 12 submissions, I didn't see 12 awards, so maybe I just missed it in there, but I appreciate the clarity, and again, want to express our gratitude to yourself and your team for all that you do to communications as well in terms of presenting this to the public in a way that's manageable and easy to read, so kudos to you, thanks so much.
Seeing no more questions, Councillor Anderson with the motion, please.
I have one question. No, I'm just kidding. I'll move that the Canadian Award for Financial Reporting for the Town of Stony Plain 2022 annual report be accepted this evening.
Any debate or discussion on the motion? Councillor Hansard.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'm very proud of our finance department, corporate services department, for the great work that you do that allows us to have this kind of an award come to the town. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Councillor Hansard. I'd like to echo the same thing. I think it's important that people know that we have a fine financial department within our organization that makes it easy for everybody to read, and yet we know how complex a report can be when it comes to the financial side of things. So I think it's really good that we're acknowledged both. From what I read, it was Canadian and the US side. It's a group of individuals that acknowledge that. So I think that goes far and wide to speak to our financial practices within the community and the leadership that looks after that. Seeing no more, I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. We'll take a 5-minute recess for a picture. Welcome back. Picture taken, and we'll move on to the next item. Next, we have the cemetery update. Administration, please proceed.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am privileged to share an update regarding the town's cemetery initiative. As of now, the town of Stony Plain does not have its own municipal cemetery. As such, this project holds significant importance, both as a service to our residents and as a commitment from the town staff to fulfill Council's vision. Today's presentation will discuss a brief history of the cemetery project itself, discussion on sales, and some next steps being taken by town administration. As Council may recall, the reason for this presentation tonight is directly related to a motion during the most recent 2024-2026 corporate plan meeting last November. This project and its subsequent services are clearly highlighted in the town's strategic plan to build a non-denominational municipal cemetery that provides a range of final resting options. This project has been part of several iterations of the corporate plan. Presently, it is planned for construction in 2025 and with opening service late 2026, pending final approval by Council. As stated, town staff have been making efforts to iteratively and methodically bring the cemetery plan to reality. Going back as far as the cemetery needs assessment in 2016, to its master plan in 2019, several key areas of focus when designing the cemetery have included ensuring an appealing, attractive, and spiritual place, as well as providing a full range of interment options and services based on the community interest that will address multiple cultures and faiths at a range of costs. To accomplish this, the town worked with Parkland County to subdivide the site that was located on Range Road 12 and engage with residents at open houses. To date, the Phase 1 design is fully complete, with a tender package at 90%. The project is on track for tendering in early 2025. During the corporate plan discussions, Council focused on sales-related matters, particularly the timing of these transactions. To provide clarity on these questions, town staff proactively sought guidance from the other municipalities and the provincial regulator. Some key points were highlighted to the town as required for any transactions to take place. The first part being a detailed plot plan. It is essential to finalize a detailed plot plan that includes the location and dimensions of all plots available for sale. This step ensures clarity regarding plot location size and its associated services for potential buyers. Currently, this plan remains incomplete. The provisional cemetery certificate is another matter. In 2020, the town held the provisional cemetery certificate, which has since expired. The town will be reapplying for a new certificate this year. It is important to note that any burials on the site will require a final certificate, obtained only after construction is complete. The cemetery is prepared to be fully operational and has received Alberta Health Services approval. The Alberta Health Services approval can be received after acceptance of a geotechnical groundwater investigation. In addition to other considerations, town staff have diligently explored the feasibility of utilizing pre-sale funds for the project. However, the province clarified that any funds received from any pre-sales must be allocated to deferred revenue and directed towards operational costs rather than capital expenditures. Town staff remain committed to advancing this initiative within the existing resources and approved budgets. Town staff will also engage external consultant to ensure efficient progress is maintained. Over 2024 and to 2025, the town intends to make improvements to how progress on this project is communicated to residents. The town's communication group has been engaged with the project team and will be creating new resources for town residents to receive updates more regularly. The town is also actively addressing other key milestones related to cemetery. These include fees and charges, internal resources needed for the cemetery to progress, processes, information for residents as well during this period. By addressing these points, the town aims to enhance transparency, streamline processes, and ensure effective management of the cemetery and service to its residents. For next steps, once council accepts this update, town staff will begin working towards improving communications and delivering additional administrative milestones as outlined. There will be further reports to council and residents in 2025 as work towards construction commences. This project remains pivotal for both the town council and our dedicated staff. The establishment of cemetery within our community holds immense significance, and we are committed to advancing this essential initiative. Thank you for your continued support as we work diligently to bring this project to fruition for the benefit of our residents. I'll now take any questions council may have.
Thank you, administration, for the great update tonight. Council, the floor is open for questions of clarity and understanding on the presentation. Councillor Hansard.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I have 3 areas that I'd like to just get a little more information on or clarity, please. When we talk about servicing the cemetery site, are we talking about having to drag, sorry, I don't know if that's the proper term, in real estate, that's what we say, drag utilities, all 4 utilities, municipal water, municipal sewer, electricity, and gas to that site? Or are we talking about perhaps electricity and then using a septic tank instead of municipal sewer, which would be very costly if it's nowhere in the vicinity, or a well versus municipal water? Could that be explained a little clearer, please?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Hansard, thank you for your question. The service, you are correct. The services, the main services that you outlined, like sanitary and water, they're currently in the growth horizon area of the town. So at this time, any services related that we would see traditionally dragged, as it were, those would not be present. The exact details for services that we would need at the site are being considered at an operational level, likely a cistern or a septic, or possibly some other related services that we could contract out. As for power and TELUS, there are power and TELUS options available near there. There is some costs associated which are captured within the project itself. But those higher level services are available. The municipal services likely would not be there at the time of construction.
Okay, next section. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. The next section that I wanted to ask about was the piece on page 48, but it's under background, paragraph 5. When we're talking about provisional and final cemetery certificates, could you please explain the difference between those two, what each of them does, and what the difference is?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Hansard. So the 2 certificates that I outlined in the presentation, the provisional and the final. Provisional is basically a high-level certificate that's approved by the province that designates that the cemetery site is incoming. It allows that certain criteria have been met to allow for the cemetery to move forward ahead of a final certificate. The final certificate, once the town has it, allows the cemetery to go fully operational. And it was explained to the town during some discussions with the regulator that generally once we have that certificate, it's done. Like we won't have to reapply for that each year. It's just something that stays with the cemetery until there wasn't any end date criteria that was given in that conversation.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just tag on to the provisional cemetery certificate. On page 55 of 65, it says it's currently expired. What is the ramification to this process?
Through Deputy Mayor, the provisional certificate was applied for and received in 2020. During part of the provisionalness is there allows for different levels of government to review the certificate as it goes. AHS identified a groundwater concern due to a radius to another groundwater well in the nearby property. Pardon me. We are within the 200-meter radius. So administration intends to submit our geotechnical information to the province this year, and or provide additional information as required to obtain that and move it along past to complete that requirement.
Thank you. Councilor Hanser, carry on.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. As everyone knows, the cemetery's been a very important project for me for a number of years, and I know it is to a number of our residents, a growing number of our residents. So I just wanted some clarification, please, around the term that was used on paragraph 6 under background. I believe it's paragraph 6. The term was when the cemetery is fully constructed and before the town could engage in any kind of sales transactions. I want to offer a different idea around that, which I may not have made clear in previous opportunities to speak about this, such as our strategic planning. But when we're talking about fully constructed, are we talking phase 1? Not the entire cemetery has to be fully constructed. Is that correct?
Through Deputy Mayor to Councilor Hanser, that's correct. It is just the phase 1 has been planned through the corporate plan and presented to council.
Okay, thank you very much. And then a bit of clarification around that, if I could, and just tell me if I'm on track or not, please. When we talked previously about this, and it was brought up during strategic planning, I know I asked the question about taking reservations. Taking reservations generally would be a fully refundable deposit in case the party wanting to reserve a lot changed their mind because the cemetery had not yet been ready for burials. And that's not the same as a sale. It doesn't pay for the plot, and no money goes into operational. It's just a reservation fee. In the world of cemetery approvals, is that still considered a sale? If someone is just reserving a plot, but maybe they move and now they don't want anybody there in their family to be buried there, so they've changed their mind, they would notify the town, get their money back, and that space is available for someone else to put a reservation on, or if we're in the midst of sales, that it could be sold to someone else when the time is right.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councilor Hansard, thank you for the question. So a couple parts to that question. When we discussed the matter of pre-sales or any sort of financial transactions ahead of the construction of the cemetery with the province, the the criteria to perform any of that was one of the main criterion was the plot locations and dimensions and viability of those locations remaining where they are in the plot plan before to after construction. So the province was clear that those things, that amongst the other criteria that I brought up in the presentation have to be there in order to move forward. That includes the provisional certificate as well. That said, there's also the matter of performing the financial transaction where the money would sit as well, and that's a town matter to resolve on our side. So could the town perform that with a detailed plot plan and with some terms of reference? That's something that could be explored. That said, the site that the construction is expected to go on has a lot of topographical and grade considerations which could change the final plot plans that we would design. And it could create some necessitated changes within what's presented to people at the time of a reservation or other form of discussion. And that could inadvertently create some issues for the town down the line.
Okay. And thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. One more clarification, and then I'll be finished.
How about we check with some of the other first?
This one is directly related to that last piece.
I'm going to check with a few of the other councilors first. Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I've got a few questions myself. The first one that I'll ask actually kind of dovetails off of Councillor Hansard's point. Rather than going to the extent of pre-sales or pre-reservations or anything like that, we know the town has our news feeds and our distribution lists and those type of things. Would there be an opportunity for the cemetery project for us to say, like, collect an expression of interest? So, you know, even just on our website in the cemetery section, just have a button and where that person would then be added to a mailing list where they would receive future communications, like specific updates about the progress of the cemetery project, notifications when things do become available or when the town does start, like is able to start with those. Is that something that's possible? I think, you know, that might be sort of what Councillor Hansard's getting at. If we can't get to that level of actually physically taking a reservation, can we at least create a parking spot for people who are interested and want to make sure they are aware of what's going on?
Through Deputy Mayor, pardon me. Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Laurie, the idea of doing a reservation list is as I mentioned, we're re-engaging with our communications group and the project team to discuss options that we could do to improve the communications and information to residents who are very interested in. Our comms team has floated ideas like that in discussions so far. And now I don't want to commit to one way or another what that looks like quite yet because we're still working out those details. But I think we can take that idea away and work it through with our comms team and see what we could do with that, what could be possible.
Perfect, and then if I may. Excellent, and so this, I'll kind of combine these two questions into one so that'll finish off mine, both referring to page 54 and page 55. Page 54 speaks to the 90% completion of the tendered package, but page 55 speaks to a bit of a roadblock or a bit of a speed bump in the requirement of additional geotechnical water investigation. Based on what I've heard tonight, it sounds like AHS has come back and expressed either a concern or further investigation that's required due to the location of an existing water well. Are we facing a certain element of risk then as to where we may actually be able to locate burial plots or any of the features of the cemetery that have already kind of been planned through the phases? And then further to that, how may that impact the completion of the tender package and its approximate plan of release and construction commencement? I know there was a lot there, sorry.
Through Deputy Mayor to Councillor Laurie, to your first question, I'll caveat that any time that we have to do a geotechnical investigation and further refine things. We can always find things we didn't intend to find. That said, with this requirement and our previous geotechnical information, our consultants have so far not flagged anything of significant risk. Those are going to be further fleshed out as we submit information to the province and get more feedback from them if the information that we have or we are intending to get more of would suffice for their requirements. The town did have the provisional certification before, so this is an additional requirement that came in after that. So given the topography, I don't want to speculate too hard, but that's something that we're going to look into. But that's the information I have at this time. To the second part with the tender package, the short answer is it could if we ran into something, like I said, that we didn't expect. But at this time, we're not anticipating that track is going to be derailed, so to speak, for us moving forward with the plan as presented. And if there was, there would be some communications to council about what's been happening.
Thank you. And so just to clarify on that, then, at this point in time, with barring any changes or anything that comes of that, when is the approximate planned release for the tender package, and when is the approximate planned construction commencement?
Through your worship to Councillor Laurie, upon council's approval in the next corporate plan, as this is for 2025 to 2027, the town would be looking to move the tender package out in Q1 2025 or earlier if timing allows. But likely it'll be Q1 of 2025 with construction happening that year, and as per the corporate plan, looking for completion by the end of 2026.
Excellent, thank you.
Any further questions for clarity and understanding? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No questions, just gratitude to our staff team. I know this is something that's been on the docket, the agenda, if you will, for many, many years. And it's nice to see that we have a time frame. We see that endpoint. And it's exciting that we can see we're at a place where we can start to go back to the community with some confidence in what that timeline is going to look like. And the questions that I've sort of taken around the cemetery and the cemetery project, I think will be answered through that process, and people just looking for sort of a timeline as to when this will be available in our community. And so certainly been a bit of a long haul to get to the point where we're at today, but it's exciting to have a finish line in sight and something that we can take back with confidence to the residents of our community. So kudos, thank you.
Councillor Hanser, did you have anything further?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, but now you gave me a second chance here. I'm going to ask a different question. Is there anything, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to General Manager Newstead or General Manager Hill, is there anything on our current capital program that if it did not move forward this year would allow the cemetery to move faster, or is it just taking this long to get all the other pieces lined up so that we can have the approvals? I'm thinking if the recreation center maybe was delayed a few months or into next year, or some other project.
Or Mr. Deputy Mayor, I think I'll weigh in on this one. I think the short answer is, even if that were the case on different capital projects, you wouldn't see construction starting this year. I think what again, in talking with our staff about this, I think what even in our own perception, our own understanding, we've this is a distinct project, both in capital and construction, and then operating from some of the other things we do. A cemetery is an important place in a lot of people's families. It's a place where people gather to see their loved ones, and we take it, Mr. Deputy Mayor, very seriously that way. Part of the course that's been charted is a course that we believe is doable, achievable, but also prudent to ensure that we're able to deliver a service to a very high standard. So I think we're on a good path, we're on a good timing. Some of the comments earlier, I would, just weigh in a little bit too on, I think, from what I understand, having been around for the majority of this or all of this as the project, there's a portion of the larger community, this is an interesting thing or a good project and so on and so forth. And for a select percentage of the community, it's very important and it's timely. And discussions, I know the general manager spoke about ensuring that for those that it's a timely project or that we reach out to them or we hear from them or we communicate with them more directly than just the communication that goes out into the general public. Again, whether that's distribution lists or email direct notifications and so on and so forth, there's ways that we can do that. I think it's important that we do that. Again, for a large swath of the community, this is an important project. For another portion of the community, it is a very important project. And we just need to respect that. But I feel good about the timing that's been laid in front of council, and I feel good about the prudence at which the staff are approaching this to ensure it's done properly and done well.
Thank you, Town Manager. Seeing no more questions, Councillor Loynes with the motion, please.
That the cemetery update be accepted for information.
Thank you, Councillor Loynes. Any debate or discussion on the motion? I just have a comment. So I just want to commend administration for bringing this forward. This is a very touchy subject for a lot of us sitting on council as well as our local residents. And what I hear tonight is a good step forward and some communication. And I think by creating a registry for this process, what it'll allow us to do is it'll allow us to send the information out to the people that are very interested on a much regular basis, so they're feeling a little more comfortable with the process that we're doing. Even though the process that we have in place is a very good process, sometimes when you're waiting for something, being informed on a regular basis is always very helpful. So again, tonight, if there's something that we can do to move that step forward, we understand that, having deposits and getting plots and that type of thing really needs to be outlined in a good details before we start taking money. There might be just a simple solution to keeping people informed, so we look forward to that coming forward. Seeing no more questions or debate, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that is carried. Council discussion. Councillor Loynes.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. A few things for me today. April 2nd is World Autism Awareness Day. 1 in 59 children are actually diagnosed with autism, and so today we wear blue. Aside of that, I noticed that Parkland County has issued a fire restriction for the county, and I was just curious if the general manager can explain if we will be doing the same.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Loynes, certainly we're tracking the conditions out there. Obviously, we've had some moisture, but we've had a lot of wind this weekend and warmer temperatures on the forecast. So for us in Stony Plain, we're not in that rural setting that Parkland County is, so we would handle things a little bit differently with respect to that. Certainly burn permits are one thing that we do issue because we do have some country residential around our community. Certainly when we get into conditions like this, the fire department will stop all burn permits, and certainly do talk to our peers over at Parkland County to ensure that we're doing things that in the areas where we need to ensure that we're having more precaution. We certainly are doing that in alignment with them also. Backyard fire pits, those types of things, still permittable at this point. And should things get to a higher level, then certainly there'd be more communication that would go out to the community around that.
Thank you.
That's good then. Thank you.
Is everything? Councillor Myers.
I'll talk into my mic this time. Not much for me this evening. I just thought I'd inform council. I have an opportunity to represent council at the 8th Annual Recovery Capital Conference Thank you. The 8th Annual Recovery Capital Conference down in Calgary. I hope to learn all sorts of things about health and mental health, and I will be providing some type of report to you guys on what I've learned.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I do have a couple of questions this evening, starting with a question to administration around our fire prevention measures. So just a little bit of history here. We had a grass fire last year about this time behind Somerville and High Park. February 20th, there's about 2 weeks ago, Alberta Forestry declared an early start to wildfire season with 57 fires burning around the province. It was noted in that press release from the Forestry Department that they're gearing up for possibly another challenging year related to wildfire control around the province. Just wondering if administration can just provide some understanding as to the steps that we take as a municipality to ensure that within municipal limits that we are fire smart and aware and taking the steps we need to ensure the safety of our residents.
Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Anderson. Certainly, we do respond out to Parkland County in addition to our own community, so we do have a coverage area there. So we do have wildland trucks that we would gear up at specific times throughout the year in order to be prepared for that. Given the dry temperatures this year, that work started a lot earlier than it typically would have in a normal year. Training has been increased through Parkland County. All of our captains or our officer staff have certainly been through weekend training with Parkland County in order to understand wildland tactics and ability for them to be aligned with some of the work that might happen if we're in a coverage situation for Parkland County. That also provides a benefit to us in terms of them understanding wildfire, and should something happen close to our community, at least they've got that additional training. Firefighters have been through virtual training related to wildfire in terms of some of the tactics, some of the basics of understanding wildfire and what you do. A little bit different fighting a wildfire. As you see, people go out with portable tanks on their back, and that's how they fight the fire, along with aerial, and along with a lot of digging and a lot of pulling hose through bush and finding some sort of dugout that they can put a portable pump in and fight the fire that way. Versus urban, you've got big trucks full of tanks, hydrants, a water source that's pretty consistent and common. So a little bit different firefighting tactics for sure, and typically they're creating a perimeter for a wildfire and hoping it burns itself out of fuel, and they're creating breaks because they don't have that water as plentiful as we would in the urban setting. So certainly those are some of the things that we've started to initiate sooner than we typically would have, and definitely working with Parkland County, we did provide them with backup coverage as they were responding to wildfires in their location. We are more engaged with the province with respect to getting those continual updates and being part of those meetings. That's typically not something that we would do because we're not part of an urban forest area. Because it's becoming more of a provincial heightened awareness, we're definitely getting involved in those conversations just so, one, if we're called out to support Parkland County, we certainly have a better understanding as to what's going on, and two, if our community is involved with something that has gotten away from a rural area into an urban interface, then we certainly do have more understanding about what we should expect or could expect. I had another point and I've lost it, so I might have to come back to it unless you have another question related to that. Oh, sorry. The other thing we did do last fall, the chief did go around to some of the properties like Somerville, like some of the large urban farms that surround our community, and just recommended and asked if perhaps they did a couple swipes around the perimeter of their fields to black dirt versus just leaving it to the cut straw. So if you drive around, you can see a lot of the fields that the farmers went ahead and did that on without a lot of prompting. So we definitely did have Somerville, they did go through and cut perimeter around that particular field a couple times. So they extended The long grass is a lot further off from the houses at this point. So definitely there were some proactive things that were done from our side. The fire chief has taken his drone out and flown around some of those areas that we might consider a bit of a higher risk. And he's happy with where things are at the moment. If we continue to get very, very dry weather and hot weather, then maybe that changes our tactics a little bit. There is some moisture in the future of our long-range forecast, so we should all cross our fingers and hope that that comes and happens. Certainly the weather and what the mountains have started to get in terms of precipitation is likely going to help the watershed and some of that drought condition in the southern communities. So I think there's some things that are, we shouldn't assume that things are going to be awesome this year in terms of not being like last year, but there's certainly different things playing out this year that lend themselves to be trending in a more positive direction from that perspective. So.
Perfect. Thank you for that, and certainly appreciate the partnerships that exist within the region and the mutual aid agreements in that way. Appreciate the fire chief's diligence in going out to some of those larger field spaces, urban farms, land that's earmarked for development, but maybe that development hasn't started to ensure that the risk is low. Just maybe some comments on deadfall in our forested area, whether that's Willow Park, whether that's down through Adam Creek, though a smaller forested area. What steps have been taken to ensure that deadfall has been taken care of, or that we minimize the risk that exists in those areas of our community as well?
Again, Deputy Mayor through to Councillor Anderson. So through our Hort department and our fire department, there's a team that's going through and doing assessments on those particular areas. Through that, they're developing work that could be done to assist in those areas. The balance is ecological over tidy up. So they're having discussions around that. In addition to that, there's Fire Smart funds that are out there, so we have to have a plan in order to apply for those funds. So that's part of what they're trying to achieve in terms of having a plan that we can put forward that might provide us the opportunity to get Fire Smart funding, which is typically dedicated to forested areas. However, there's an opportunity that we might be successful in that with a robust plan that helps achieve and articulates and illustrates exactly what is happening in Stony Plain. Threat-wise, likely very minimal in terms of on either side of those areas that you're describing. Typically, we're doing maintenance cuts that are very short, so the fine fuel there is quite low. There is deadfall, for sure. Typically, our department can get there and manage that. Our fire department can get there and manage those particular areas. We've had a few over at Rotary Park last year was an example of that. When they're close to residential areas, of course, the risk is a little bit higher. We have seen close to in my time in Stony Plain, the farmer's field close to Westera started backburn up to people's fences. So eventually it does burn out because the fuel dies, and we can typically get out there quick enough that we can start laying a line and water down to stop that fuel from hitting fences, which we're all aware are very flammable. And if fire gets there and there's enough wind and there's enough ability to take that fence to a heightened level, then we start to get into a bit more trouble.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And it's my understanding that our Emergency Preparedness Day will go ahead again this year, and I'll assume that our fire department, if they're available, will have a role in that day as well. We're going to jump from one side of protective services to the other with Inspector McGilvery away this evening. There was a question that I had for him, but in his absence, we'll direct towards administration, and that's related to just some dialogue within the community that seems to have led to, has come from or stemmed from an increase in vehicle theft in the area. And I'd reached out to administration a while ago to see if the public discourse and that communication that we were hearing aligned with the statistics. And prior to the inspectors informing us he wasn't able to be here. We did get a chance to look at those statistics and certainly saw quite a large increase for this quarter compared to the last 4 or 5 years in that vehicle thefts had doubled. And so just be looking for some comments on perhaps what we're seeing there related to vehicle theft and some tips or strategies that residents can take to try to limit theft of vehicles in our area.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Anderson once again. Certainly had this discussion with Inspector McGilvery, and unfortunately he was called away this evening and not able to be here, and he probably would have said the same thing that I'm going to share with you this evening, is we had a prolific offender in the community that raised those stats a bit. We also had, I think, roughly 8 of those vehicles that were stolen were keys in, doors unlocked. So really, if people don't want their vehicles stolen, the best thing you can do is lock your doors or perhaps not leave them running and unattended with the doors open and unlocked. The majority of the vehicles stolen are certainly in that realm. And the increase that you did see, 23 over 24, 80% of those were keys were in the vehicle, in the ignition, it was running, the doors were unlocked. The best defense is our own defense. You leave your house unlocked and go away for the weekend, I would be very nervous coming back and finding my TV or my valuables removed from my home, and I think that would be my own doing, my own problem. So really, we've got locks on our doors for purposes, and it's to keep those that are not looking for a crime of opportunity, so to speak. Typically speaking, we would probably be appalled at how many times your door handle gets jiggled in the middle of the night from people walking down the street. If it's open, they're certainly going to go in and look for valuables. If it's not, they're just moving on. So the best course of action for people is to make sure that your doors are locked every night. Garages, garage doors, car doors, valuables are out of sight. If it doesn't look entertaining appetizing, they're certainly not going to go to that buffet, so to speak. So I would suggest the biggest thing is to keep your doors locked and not have your vehicle running unattended.
Perfect, and I appreciate that. One of the comments that I've heard a couple of times in encouraging residents to follow up with the RCMP and inform them of, whether it's doorbell cameras or, home security systems having video of people checking doors and whatnot. I hear, they didn't take anything, so what's the RCMP going to do about it? And, it's my understanding in conversation with, our administration and the RCMP that it is always better to report, and that, our protective services teams are able to use that data to, send out patrols or, whatever that might be. And so just maybe a couple of quick comments on reporting, and not just reporting thefts, but, those crimes of opportunity where people are just checking doors and that sort of thing. Should residents be reporting those as well?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Anderson, certainly they should be. The RCMP often look at trends, they often look at stats, and so if there's a number of break-ins in a particular area, then that changes the tactics that they would use in order to police. And certainly data and statistics can share another story, and so they are certainly interested in that particular story. They do have an app out that you can check this crime stats. You can report right online in that particular app. The details are on our webpage related to that particular program. And they do encourage people to, if you've been a victim of crime, please report it. It's important for them. It enables them to allocate their priorities accordingly, and nothing's too small from that perspective.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I did have one more, but since I've been directed at you during my discussion, we'll save it for another time. But I do want to carry on with sort of this theme this year of taking an attitude of gratitude, or a stance of gratitude. And we spoke a little bit about our community service organizations, whether it was the Kinsmen that were in a few weeks back, or NeighborLink Parkland that were here today, that are those unsung heroes within our municipality. But we also have unsung heroes within our town staff. And it's just fortunate that they happen to be here today, and that's our staff that work in our finance department and our communications department and our legal department, who have some of the most critical roles in keeping our municipality moving forward, keeping us on budget, keeping community informed. And you know, we can't thank you enough for the role that you do. We know you're not always up front, you know, in the public eye for the work that's done, but we'd be lost without you. So tremendous amount of gratitude to our legal services, our communications, and our financial department. So thanks again.
Councillor Hansard.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I just, I echo the comments made earlier about our unsung heroes in our community. So thanks to our Fire Services Department for quick response on the fires that happened in the Glens. And I know there's a bigger story there that we don't need to talk about this evening, but as always, just concerned about the families that had their homes compromised or damaged. Also, just a quick reminder for people, April 16th, that's 2 weeks away. We have annual pitch-in week, so set aside 11:30 to 1:30 that day. If you have some time to come on and help us clean up the town a little bit, we go out and actually have fun doing that, picking up everything everybody's not bothered to put in trash receptacles or recycle receptacles. And on the 17th of April, if you volunteer in our community, plan on coming to volunteer night at Heritage Center. It really is for volunteers. I don't believe any community is really great without an army of volunteers. And our deputy mayor commented earlier to NeighborLink this evening that he was impressed with the number of volunteers that work with that organization. So all the organizations, tell your volunteer organization within to come and be part of that evening. It's not a real long period of time, but it does give an opportunity for thank you and appreciation of them as a group to be recognized for what they do to make our community and our region great. That's the 17th of April for an hour and a half starting at 6:30. And on the 17th of April, and the 16th is annual pitch-in.
Thank you, Councillor Hansard. Councillor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. A couple of things this evening. The first is I just want to start with a question through to administration. Along 28th Street, there's been a significant occurrence of parking occurring on the west side off the road. As spring has sprung, I've noticed that there's now a significant amount of damage that has been done to the ground in that area because they're not parking on the road surface. They're actually parking along the grassed area between the road and the trail. I'm just wondering if I can hear from one of the general managers, I'm not sure which one would field it, but as to whether parking in that location is actually allowed and how we will manage and mitigate the damages that are being done to town property.
Through your worship to Councillor Laurie, I'd probably take that question away and send an email back to you. General thoughts, if there's any damage out there, we can direct it to our operations group to see if there's what we can do. As for the parking, that's something that we work really closely with our partners in CAPS. If we're having any reported issues, we do evaluate the parking restrictions if necessary or changes therein. I'm not aware of any that we're looking at right now, but I would be happy to reply back in an email with some clarity.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, through to Councillor Laurie, we're certainly there frequently issuing violations. So we're certainly tagging vehicles, and if they're not moved, we'll tow them. But I can't give you the statistics, but I know that is a high spot for our officers in terms of tagging. So it's a no-go for us, and we're definitely eyes on it, and we have issued several violations for that particular property.
Excellent, thank you. And then just to follow up on that, I mean, it does seem like it's a very busy area for that to occur. And one thing that I've noticed is there is no signage there. Given the prolific number of offenses that are occurring there and that we are having to issue citations, I think citations we'd like to see as a last resort. Would there be a preventative measure that could be undertaken? Could we throw up a couple of, no parking signs along the side of that road, even just for a little while, in order to kind of set that expectation in that area? Because I think part of it comes from maybe a bit of confusion. People see people parking there, assume that it's acceptable to park there, and next thing you know, they end up with a violation ticket on their windshield. I'm not sure that that's favorable either. So if there's something we can do to prevent, is that possible?
Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'll just chime in a bit there. I think we can take a look at it. I know the exact area you're talking about as well. I think the other thing that happens there is that there's no curbing or anything. So, people just drive onto the grass, basically, is what happens. I'm sure we can take a look. Deputy Mayor, through to Councilor, I don't want to make any promises about any signs or anything that we would look at putting up there. I do think in this particular instance, enforcement is part of it. I'm not sure how, or I've seen a lot of weird parking over the years, but to me, it's pretty clear that you're parking on a grass. You're not even on the road, the ones I've seen over there. So I'll just leave it at that, but that's some pretty bad parking that the people are doing over there, so.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I kind of liken it back to what we saw in the past around the rail tracks. You can go on Google Maps and you can see a path where people have cut the fence and walked from one of our subdivisions across to the other, across the train tracks. We know it's something that people shouldn't be doing. We know that people likely know they shouldn't be doing it, and yet it's very obvious that behavior continues. And so I think given how much of a challenge there seems to be there, I think we're at the point where maybe a little bit of action could occur to help set the expectation of that. But I will leave that in the capable hands of our administration. In respect to Councillor Anderson's point, just want to advise, I believe most of council knows, I do sit on the Forest Resource Improvement Association of Alberta board for the Fire Smart Committee as a representative for Alberta municipalities. What our general manager has spoken about is something that is taken on through all communities throughout Alberta, whether they're in the forest protection area or not. The FRIA board manages a grant program that covers everything from hazard and risk assessments to management and mitigation to strategies to vegetation management and public education. So lots of opportunity for granting programs for communities of all sizes and all locations of Alberta, including ourselves, and that is from step one of the process all the way through to a finalization of the process. So strongly encourage, regardless of what step of the process the town is at in that, there's likely an opportunity for some grant funding to assist that available. I do want to acknowledge and extend gratitude to our emergency services. As we know, we had an incident this weekend in town here. Being a holiday weekend, we know many of our emergency service members on the fire department are volunteer or paid on call in nature, and likely many of them were settling in to enjoy a day with their family in celebration of a holiday, and were called away to serve our community, unfortunately to attend to somebody's challenging day during what should be a celebratory time. So just kudos to the team that did respond, and thanking to them for sacrificing their time with their family to be of service and help to our community. Just two highlights that I wanted to make this evening as well. The GCC group had an opportunity to tour a business in our North Industrial Park called Omnisport. They're a fantastic company that's been in our community for quite some time. Their commodity is few and far between in its opportunity in our community, because they do things like rink boards and bleachers and those type of things. But it's amazing to see the distribution network that they have and the amount of projects that they do. And they were able to share some unique aspects about their business, and it's great to see fantastic companies within the town of Stony Plain and how they operate within not only this country but other countries. I think at one point he was highlighting a project they did, I believe, in China. They shipped some of their board systems out to there, talking about system they had in the shop that they were sending down to Arizona. He had crews currently out in Strathcona installing a rink project, and they're even helping our neighbors out in Spruce Grove with their civic center. So glad to see a fantastic business in our community. We know we have many of them, and it's a great opportunity when GCC gets to go meet with them, and we love sharing that information back with council as well. And then a kudos to our road crews. They were out today doing lots of our street sweeping and getting on that, which I think is adventurous and awesome for April 2nd, especially given, as you mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that the forecast may have them switching the sweepers for the plows again, the sanders later this week. But that's Mother Nature in Alberta in spring for us. So that's all I have this evening. Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Laurie. I'd like to tag on to that kudos to the fire department here. I also think it's important that everybody know that we had support from Spruce Grove and Parkland. Without the support that we have from our partners locally, it makes it tough to control fires like we have within our community, and vice versa. We quite often go to theirs to support them. So a great gratitude to all of the volunteers that come out on a long weekend and give up their time to save our local community. On a prettier note, maybe somebody in council, well, actually, maybe somebody in administration can help me to understand the fabulous new program that we have within our community called Sunshine Tax. Would somebody like to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I can comment on that. You know, there was a fair amount of policy development that went into that. We did analyze how many houses face south, how many face north, and putting that all together. But I do believe, Deputy Mayor, that we can't lose sight that there is also a cloudy day rebate. That's meant to offset the cost for approximately, I think we figured it out, 80% of the population of Stony Plain will see that rebate. And we will continue to monitor that as best we can up until April 1st of 2025.
That is greatly appreciated. I look forward to this new sunshine tax that we have within our community. On another note, Frisbee disc in our community. I'd like to talk about that just a tiny bit and a little bit of an update. Everywhere I go within our community, I'm being asked by most of the people that have contributed to it. We're under the understanding that we would start to see this available to our community. Some of the local organizations kind of were thinking that they would be able to have competitions and stuff like that. I'm just wondering how we get this back on track so that we could see it sooner than, I think the last report I had, late summer.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, certainly can give you a bit of an update. Late summer was overpromise, underdeliver, or so underdeliver, overpromise. So basically, I'm forgetting, I probably got that backwards, but essentially, I was given a message to you on the weekend about May, and I'm like, I'm not sure where that date came from. That's a bit ambitious, given that sometimes we have winter till the end of April, and that's an outside sport, and there's equipment on order, and we have to wait for frost to come out of the ground before we can put concrete in and put the baskets in. And so there's some steps that have to be taken with respect to the weather. End of summer, that's out there so that if something comes up that we're not able to execute the project in as quickly as we believe we can, that gives us a bit of a buffer. So will it be open before late summer? Yes, likely it will be open. Will it be open May 1st? No, that's not likely, given the weather and the forecast and given the frost that needs to come out. Equipment's on order, and we're working with the local disc group who messaged this morning and said they got their society status, so that's another incredible step that they've taken in order to create that legacy at that particular site as we continue moving forward with that project, and for many years to come they'll be able to apply for grants and upkeep and all the different things that will come along with that particular site. So there's some positive steps that have come into play. Certainly dealing with the chamber, they collected the dollars on our behalf through Rick Kamensky did that work on behalf of the chamber. And so, yeah, there's some things in play right now. We're just waiting for some weather. We're waiting for some equipment to arrive so that we can start putting it in place out at that particular site.
Thanks for the update. I really appreciate that. If there's anything that you need from us, please let us know. I know when you talk about the May portion of it, I think it was just in general conversation, a lot of the promises were made to the people that were contributing to it, that there might be something open sooner than later, so greatly appreciate that. Now this comment doesn't come very often from this chair, but tonight I'd like to make a comment towards our finance committee. I think it's an opportunity for our general manager of corporate services to acknowledge her team. So if you'd like to speak to that, Terry, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the floor, Deputy Mayor. To you and all of council, I'm extremely proud of the team of all of the town of Stony Plain. We really work in collaboration with, as you can see, there's multiple departments that are involved in not only this annual report, but it's the work behind the scenes to make sure that our administration can make strategic decisions, that council can make strategic decisions. And it's not just one person, it's multiple people behind the scenes. So I appreciate, the senior leadership team that always supports corporate services, as well as the other departments that work collaboratively to make sure that we can perform and be able to be here to support council.
Thank you for that. As we all appreciate the fact that everybody on our administration team, from the senior leadership team right down through the people that do the behind scenes that we never get to see here in council, we all greatly appreciate the work that each and every one of their departments do. So keep up the good work. You make council look very, very good, even though you're not the public eye. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. And finally, I had a chance this past weekend to attend a function that I will say was very culturally fulfilling. I had a chance to go to a Ramadan thing, which was a fundraiser with a local Muslim community. If you have never had a chance to have a conversation with somebody that's from that, you should have that conversation. They're looking to have a mosque within our region, specifically Spruce Grove, but I think if any one of us here know of a place that would be large enough for them to be able to have that, it might be a good suggestion that we're able to make to them as they're looking to grow. They do have a small place that they're able to do prayer in our communities. As we all know, that faith is a big thing for all communities, and it brings different groups to our communities. So it was a great opportunity to learn new culture, new food, and things that I never knew about a culture that is within our organization, our community, and it's just an opportunity that probably will never come along again. So I just wanted to speak greatly about it. This evening, there is no closed session this evening. That brings us to the end of our agenda this evening. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.